All right, folks, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome aboard our brief trading, the Death Star. Wow, what an incredible market it was today. This is the stock we're going to talk about today, folks, really does feel like the Death Star. Big behemoth that took over everything, destroyed. Everybody thought it was destroyed. It wasn't. And now it is taking over the world. Welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, you bet. Where is everybody checking in from? Let's do that. Haven't done that in a while. I want to see where you're coming from. Give me your first name and where you're coming from. Since it looks like a lot of people are new and haven't been at TGO before, let me take a look here. Sandy, Virginia, Larry Jack, Dano, Santa Monica, Rochester, Michigan, Robert, Atlanta, Georgia, Longport, New Jersey. Mike, I grew up in Margate, New Jersey. Portland, Delaware. Pensacola, the cradle of naval aviation. Sam, North Dakota. Ron, Fort Lauderdale. Ron, I'm in Fort Lauderdale right now. Wow, look at this. Frank, Cayman Islands. Frank, save me a place. I'm coming there soon. Parmar, Edmonton, Canada. Lynn, Utah. Awesome. Scott's in Houston, Texas. Kevin's in Vegas, baby. New Zealand. Look at that. Dubai. Welcome aboard, Rashid from Dubai. Southern California. Steve, San Antonio. Got engaged on the Riverwalk. All right, guys. Welcome aboard. Couldn't be a more perfect time doing this webinar, to be honest with you, because today's market action really is a microcosm of what's going on. The market came back to reality for what, about 30 minutes to a half an hour, and then somebody magically bought the market to keep it from going. Amsterdam, wow, look at that, Amsterdam. All right, so before we get airborne, before I tell you who I am, because I know a lot of our strategic partners emailed, and we have a lot of new folks here, let me ask you a question. I'm going to show you two pictures right now. Which fighter aircraft would you rather fly? You ready? This is your first choice. Choice A. This is the F-4 Phantom. Beautiful aircraft, workhorse, leaked a lot of fuel and hydraulic fluid, but look at the cockpit right now. Over 300 switches and dials in that cockpit. The pilot would spend a ton of heads down time looking inside the cockpit instead of out looking at potential air-to-air or air-to-ground threats. So everybody keep this picture in mind. So would you rather fly this one or, you ready for this? This one. Two flat panel displays. That's it. Folks, this is an unclassified, clearly, picture of an F-35 cockpit. Folks, we call this the Wonder Woman jet. This jet is so smart that it actually limits the amount of information that is displayed to the pilot at any given point during the flight. The jet is smart enough to say, you know what? The pilot doesn't need to know this at this point. We're not going to display it to him. So clearly, which fighter aircraft would you rather fly? It's this one, the F-35. You want a clean cockpit that can fly through air defenses, and you're focused on one mission. Do me a favor, silence all your distractions, your electronic nicotine, because you've never heard what I'm about to you might have heard what I'm about to tell you, but you've never heard it from me. By the end of this webinar, about an hour-long brief, folks. It's a brief. It's not called a long. In the military, it's called a brief for a reason. So my promise to you by the end of this webinar is to give you an up-to-date intelligence brief, show you the only stock ETF that you need to own, and a good substitute to trade if you can't trade this stock, okay? So folks, welcome aboard. Matthew Buckley, call sign Wiz. Last time I talked to my parents, they did love me and they didn't name me Wiz. I earned that call sign flying the FA-18 Hornet for the United States Navy for about 15 years. Graduated from the Navy Fighter Weapons School, which many of you know as Top Gun, and I was an adversary pilot. So if you, and was it this summer, Top Gun Maverick's coming out. Remember the first movie? The bad guys, the instructors, they flew what? They flew jets that were painted like enemy MiGs, and they flew bad guy tactics. So that's what I did. So That's actually a picture of the patch on my flight suit when I graduated to Top Gun. Also flew 44 combat sorties over Iraq, and you ready for this? The most boring flying in my life. The most challenging flying I ever did in my career was actually up at Top Gun. We are so tough on each other during training. So if or when you do go into combat, it's a letdown. It's almost like, wow, this is what I prepared for. You want to be over prepared. 44 combat missions over Iraq, had a very short airline career. 9/11 was my first and I guess essentially last day at work at American Airlines. This is a picture of me taking off out of Naval Air Station Fort Worth. I ended up on 9/11 sitting combat air patrol over the Southwest United States. So short airline career. So I got furloughed immediately in the blink of an eye. I lost that 6-figure airline job, working one day a month, hanging out with flight attendants. So what did I have to do? I had to focus on something which up until that point was kind of a hobby, trading. As a young junior officer in the Navy, first of all, folks, you don't join the Navy to get rich, right? You join the Navy to serve your country and your fellow American. So me, joined the Navy, but was always interested in finance. How can I make a little bit more money doing this? Almost 28 years ago, I invested. But as I was learning to fly and fight a fighter jet, I applied all of that to my trading. Having a strategy, implementing tactics, contingency planning, knowing when to get out of a good or bad situation before it got worse. Applied it to my trading with incredible results. Okay, so I essentially went from the cockpit to the trading pit because of 9/11. Eventually, because of the things that I learned and my performance and my leadership methodologies, I popped up on the radar of one of the largest volatility arbitrage trading firms in the country, headquartered right here in the Chicago Board of Trade. This was our trading firm right there. You see those big windows right here? I'll show you in the next picture what our firm looked like. Largest options trading firm in the world. And here I am, little old me, retail trader. Had a blast in Chicago. Built a hedge fund, built the retail brokerage options house, which is now E-Trade, which is now today. What is E-Trade? First audience participation question. What is E-Trade today? You got it. That's exactly right. It is Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley just bought E-Trade, which was Options House, which was Trade Monster. So me going from being a little old retail trader to, essentially helping run a $2.5 billion options trading firm, I felt like Eddie Murphy in Trading Places. And he did a pretty damn good job, right? So I was the managing director of strategy for a $2.5 billion options trading firm, and I was the founder and CEO of Peak Six Media. We were the options news network. Now, I know John and Pete Najarian from my time in Chicago, and they try and do a pretty good job on CNBC talking about options, but they can't. It's all stock all the time. So me, founded the Options News Network. We shot shows on the floor of the CBOE, the CBOT, and gave retail traders such as yourself a behind the scenes look at what was going on in the options world. Had an absolute blast doing that. How many, second audience participation question. How many of you are in Chicago, lived in Chicago right now? Let me take a look. Wow, there's a massive amount of people in this room. That's awesome. No offense. Okay, good. Yeah, we lived out in Napertucky, out in Naperville, out in the suburbs. No offense to the people in Chicago, but Todd's north of that. Scott's. Hey, there you go, Naperville. We lived off 95th and Naperville Plainfield Road. Morton Grove, Mike, awesome. So no offense to all the folks that are still up there in Chicago is like the Miami of Canada. And Tamara's all the way up there in Wisconsin. That counts, Tamara, since you and I are best friends. Couldn't stand it, man. I'm a beach guy. I'm a Navy guy. I need warm weather and ocean. So Susie and I grabbed the kids. This is actually the last picture, like family portrait we took before we left Chicago to move down here to God's Waiting Room in Boca Raton. Let me give you a quick family brief. This kid is 19. He's up at Norwich University in Vermont playing hockey. He's in the Marine PLC program, the Platoon Leaders Course. He was born at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, or actually Balboa Naval Hospital. So I think when he was born, they dropped him on his head, and he's a little mental because he wants to fly for the Marine Corps. My middle son, Jack, he's got the devil in him. You can just see in that smile. Freshman in high school, wants to go to the United States Naval Academy, also wants to fly fighter jets. So we have a Marine and a Navy guy who want to fly fighters. Keely Grace is 12, going on 29, a cheerleader, and she's not allowed to leave the house before I drop dead. Why do I do this, folks? Because I go to these other presentations where people, hey, come learn how to trade with me or do stuff with me. You don't even know who they are. So that's a little bit about my background. You better know something about the person who's trying to teach you how to trade. Okay, so let's go ahead and get airborne here. So silence everything and let's get airborne. Quick intro, because I know a lot of folks are brand new to topic. Thank you, I appreciate that. Now, it's all the mother, trust me. All right, so here we go. Breaking news. This might be a shock or maybe not a shock. You ready for this? Wall Street is absolutely lying to you. Now, we're going to get into in about 15 minutes why the United States government's lying to you, but I'm telling you right now, and they have been since day one. You ready for this? Have you ever heard the phrase about, you're welcome, Charles, absolutely. Have you ever heard the phrase diversification? Do not put all your eggs in one basket. You have got to diversify. Everybody got that, right? Why diversification is important in investing. I actually Googled this the other night to get some of these headlines. When you Google this, there's like 50 search results on the first 2 pages. You have to diversify. Can anybody in this room tell me why Wall Street has told you to diversify? Let me see some of these answers. Why has Wall Street, for years since you've been investing, told you to diversify? Good. All right, well, a couple of you got it. Let me read some of these. You got Jim. Yeah, awesome. You ready for this, folks? Not to limit risk, folks. You ready for this? It's fees. I remember being a 21-year-old ensign in the United States Navy at Naval Air Station Key West and buying a mutual fund. I still have like the carbon mail. They sent the receipts via mail, folks, from USAA. $250 commission. Why would they tell you to diversify? It's called churn, ladies and gentlemen. They want to churn your account. We think you should be in these 20 names: trade, 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 cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So the main reason for diversification in the old days was this: money for brokers, folks, period. I'm going to tell you, I can't stand this guy, to be honest with you. He's a smart investor, but this was the best quote. Diversification is a protection against ignorance. It makes very little sense for those who know what they are doing. Let me translate that from Warren Buffett to WizSpeak. Diversification is for people who don't know what they're doing. Okay? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, folks, it depends on the eggs and it depends on the basket, ladies and gentlemen. This is the one stock, exactly, Terry. This is the one stock you need to own, and that's it. Now, I know that's going to freak a lot of you out right now, but please don't eject right now and hang with me. Look, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Look at the Annual revenue increase. This is in billions of dollars, folks. Does anybody see? This looks like an F-18 taking off an aircraft carrier. Amazon, ladies and gentlemen, is in everything. It wasn't to begin with. It's in healthcare, it's in space, it's in web services, it's in entertainment, it's in FedEx, UPS, ground. I see more blue vans out on the street than I do a FedEx or UPS truck. Folks, this literally is the Death Star. Now, before we talk about how brilliant it is to only trade Amazon, as a fighter pilot, as an options trader, I have to brief the threats. What are the risks of trading just one name? Holy crap, folks, look at this. Lehman, stocks can go to zero, folks. Everybody remember Lehman Brothers? A 150-year-old company in this country that went broke overnight. Anybody remember this company? Bear Stearns? Everybody, you probably watched CNBC and Jim Cramer. Everybody remember Jim Cramer? 2 days. So Jim Cramer, he looked like Khrushchev, like taking off his shoe and pounding it at the UN on the table. He pounded the table and said, Bear Stearns is a steal at $70. 2 days later, Bear Stearns was at zero. Anybody see Jim Cramer talk about his Bear Stearns call? No, you don't. Some other examples. You ready for this? Pets.com. Are you kidding me? What did they own? Well, the domain name, pets.com, and a sock puppet. How about Enron? Enron, folks, it was a middleman of electricity. What am I getting at here? The graveyard of stocks that have gone to zero is pretty big. Can Amazon go to zero? Absolutely. Will it? No, not in our lifetime. As a matter of fact, the broken up type of Amazon Air, you ready for this? In 2 years will be bigger than FedEx and UPS combined. Right before Christmas, Amazon told the resellers, you're not allowed to use FedEx or UPS, only blue trucks. So it's individual Amazon Web Services, the space program, the entertainment. Jeff Bezos wants to launch, it's a weird number, I guess they did the math, 3,205 satellites into low orbit to give everybody around the globe internet access. And guess what they're going to be buying stuff through? Amazon. So here's the threat. Can Amazon go to zero? Yes. Will it? Absolutely not. Here is the next threat. You ready for this? Him. Do you all remember about it was about a year and a half, 2 years ago? Donald Trump he probably didn't wake up. The dude doesn't sleep. He woke up, grabbed his phone, and started ripping Jeff Bezos, the Washington Post, and Amazon to shreds. They're screwing the post office, the blah, 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 everything. Guess what happened? Nothing. Okay, so what has happened recently? Good questions. A lot of folks asking this. I'm going to answer this right now. Let's play government alphabet soup. About 8 months ago, the government said the DOJ is going to be looking into who? Facebook, Twitter, Google. Guess what alphabet soup is going to look into Amazon? FTC. Let me draw a big line here. DOJ, folks, criminal, like Uncle Sam with a badge. FTC, recommendations with a letter. Do you remember the Baby Bells, Standard Oil, who is it, Microsoft, IBM? So the FTC, folks, takes about 5, 10, 15 years to come up with a recommendation to do what? Maybe break them up. I'm telling you here right now today that if you broke up Amazon, the parts are worth more than the whole. It's almost like Jeff Bezos is saying, you know what? Yeah, break me up because I'm worth more. So there is political risk to Amazon, but you ready for this? What happened, what was it, a month ago, 2 months ago? The Department of Defense came out and awarded the JEDI contract to who? Microsoft. You know what Amazon did 2 weeks ago? I'm a Trump dude. I fully support this. Amazon sued and has sued the United States government and Donald Trump. The dude for months is like, I wouldn't give this contract to Amazon, but that's me and I'm not involved in the decision. What? Actually, the lawsuit wants to depose the president. They've actually, in their filing, I've read the filing, they've put in the president's own quotes. So even though the JEDI contract is only $10 billion, Amazon Web Services last quarter was like, was it 90, let's round up, $100 billion. The JEDI contract is only 10. Jeff Bezos is making this a personal mission. So those are the threats. Can Amazon get targeted and blown up by a bunch of teenagers like the Death Star? Yeah, but it's going to rebuild. Let me, real quick, what have any of you seen Jeff Bezos on Capitol Hill? No. Have you seen Jack Dorsey from Twitter? Yes. Have you seen Zuckerberg sitting on his little booster seat? Yeah. Have you seen Google? Yeah. So Jeff Bezos, folks, when he gets attacked, you know what he does? He doesn't say a word. Do you remember a year ago? You ready for this? The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Joseph Dunford, 4-star Marine general, sat in front of the Senate and said, Google is working with the PLA, the People's Liberation Army. He said that he's a Marine, he didn't need to be under oath. He said under oath that one of our, quote, American tech companies is working for the People's Liberation Army. You know what Jeff Bezos said like 3 days later at a defense conference? He said, we're an American company. This is around the time that Google backed out of some defense, some DoD contracts, and they also took off of their headquarters wall the words that said, do no evil. Yeah, go figure. So I'm not doing my job today if I don't warn you about the threats to just trading one name, but those are the threats. Why did Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns go to zero? They didn't own anything, folks. They owned paper. They owned trades. They owned positions. I mean, I showed you that picture. The dude's carrying the sign off. I don't even think they owned the sign. Pets.com owned a domain name. Enron was a middleman of electricity. They didn't own anything. Amazon owns airplanes. It owns factories. It owns spaceships. It owns the web. And 3 weeks ago, they came out and said, we want to file patent protection for Amazon Pharmacy. Folks, 2-3 years from now, you're not going to be doing anything but their last earnings, half of America, 350 million Americans, 125 million Amazon Prime members. All right, so now that I scared you, but that shouldn't have been scary. Good. A lot of people are like, that's not scary. Let's talk about the benefits. Yeah, exactly, Terry. Let's talk about the benefits of trading just one name, a solo stock. Folks, you trade just that name and you're going to profit no matter what direction it goes, up, down, or sideways, right? You stay focused on what? The news and events that only impact that name instead of a ton of stocks and other ETFs, right? Essentially, folks, you're going to become an expert and a market maker in Amazon, reducing time that you'd spend on other positions. So I'm going to throw one of my coaching guys under the bus. He's a plastic surgeon in Boca Raton. We met years ago. Not that I need plastics. Don't ask that question. Exactly. Don't ask that question. We met. I can't stand Starbucks. We met at a Starbucks. Doc opened his laptop and showed me his Fidelity account. You ready for this, folks? I'm not kidding. Let me lay this on you. 33 positions. I about spit my coffee out and fell out of the chair. The guy had 33 positions in his account. And as I sat there stunned, I'm like, well, what's that? He's like, well, I think that's I don't know. I think that's a pot stock. And I don't know. Well, I was in this thing. It's losing money. I'm waiting for it to, I'm like, wait, you're losing money and you're, quote, waiting for it to get, wait, keep going, Doc. Unbelievable. After a 15-minute brief, I about passed out, folks. If you're a retail trader, folks, I do this full time. If you're a retail trader and you have more than 5 to 7 positions and you're not sitting at your computer for the entire trading day, you're doing it wrong. 33 positions. He had this. Which one would you rather have, folks? And you know, Doc's, trust me, in my coaching, Doc has cleaned up a lot of his positions, but this is absolutely insane. You should be focusing on one name. Now, if you're sitting here going, Wiz, it is in my brain. I have got to diversify ever since day one of investing. Diversify. I can't. Does not compute. Guess what? We also trade in this service. XLY. It's an ETF. Amazon's a what, 2100, whatever it closed at today. We'll take a look at our screen in a couple minutes here. It's a lot of money to trade Amazon. What do we also trade? XLY. Take a look at the top 10 holdings in the XLY. This is an ETF, an exchange traded fund. You guys can look as quick as I can. Look at the number one holding as of this was yesterday's close. Let's round up. 26% of this ETF is XLY, and it's what, 122 whatever dollar ETF. We have a nice iron condor on the XLY right now in our solo Amazon service. Yeah, it's a $2,150 stock, but we also trade XLY. So if you're sitting here going, hey man, I have got to diversify. Look at the names in here. What was that? Home Depot, McDonald's, Nike, Starbucks. I can't stand Nike, can't stand Starbucks. Lowe's, good. Booking. So look at this. If you're sitting here going, man, I love what you're telling me about just trading Amazon. Well, guess what? We also trade in the service XLY. So how do we target Amazon and XLY for max profit? The first thing I'm going to teach you, as speaking of the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, we're going to hop in the cockpit and we're going to go, the speed of light? Yeah, speed of light out into the future. We're going to go all the way out on our options chain and establish what I call a base position. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do what we call synthetic stock. And as an F-18 pilot, as an options trader, we're always going to have protective puts, period. I never walked out to the F-18 and said, hey, Chief, do me a favor, pull the ejection seat out, give me another 800 pounds of gas. I'm not getting shot down on this thing. That's absolute insanity. Synthetic stock with protective puts, or a tactic that's called a long call diagonal with what we call protective puts. Same thing. And so this stuff is out in the future. I'm gonna show you how to hop in your jet, go all the way out into the future. It's essentially a leap, right? A long-term option. Then what are we gonna do? We're gonna trade the front months, folks. Amazon or XLY is going up, bullish spreads, maybe buying some calls. Amazon's going down, bearish spreads, or sell what we call front month calls against our long position. Hey, Wiz, Amazon XLY is moving sideways. We have a weekly sideways iron condor on XLY that's looking to make about $4,000 with limited risk this week. Absolutely insane. So no matter what's going on in what we call the front month, yeah, good question. The front month is now, right? Let's be Buddhist. Power of now. The front month is February, March, April. Those are, quote, the front months. When I show you how to establish the base positions, those are, I think, well, we'll look in a second here. Amazon's got a June 22 expiration. You ready for this? By June, write this down, date, time. By June of 2022, Amazon is a $4,000 stock. In a year from now, Amazon will be a $3,000 stock. Now, let me do this real quick, and I'll give you an intelligence brief in about 3 minutes. Let me put an asterisk on all this. The coronavirus. This is the big unknown. I'm going to tell you my opinion about this in a couple minutes. I'm going to tell you, I do, exactly, Terry. This is perfect world. We are not in a perfect world. Okay, so great question, Terry. When you say you hope, I do. So let me give you a quick intelligence brief, and then let's go look at some potential trades. Okay. Yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, after the close, which is pretty interesting. So Monday, I was driving back from Tampa, Alligator Alley, because my son was playing a President's Day hockey tournament. Apple came out on President's Day when the market was closed and said, you know what, our first quarter is going to be awful. I wonder why they did that on President's Day. You know what happened on Saturday when I was at a hockey game in Tampa with my son? The White House, folks, where the president lives. So it doesn't say the president. The White House came out and said it doesn't trust the coronavirus numbers, and here's why. So last night, before I went to bed, Goldman came out and said this: market underestimating coronavirus risk, correction is looking more probable. So let me, and for folks who are, hanging and enjoying what you're doing right now, let me tell you, so one of the benefits you get with being a Top Gun Options member, flew fighters for 15 years, graduated from Top Gun, got a lot of buddies on the Hill, got a lot of buddies in the Pentagon, got a lot of buddies on forward staff. One of my good friends is, he was a White House fellow, and he did his fellowship with the Secretary of Health and Human Services. He's got some drinking buddies at the CDC. Let me tell you this right up front. And if you know me and my background, I'm no tinfoil hat, black helicopters around my house, the end is near guy. Let me end this, and it makes me feel better that the senator from Arkansas, Tom Cotton, who is a major Trump supporter. This dude, he doesn't carry water for the president. He carries a water tower. 2 months ago, this guy came out and said this was a biological weapon that accidentally got out of the Wuhan PLA Level 4 biolab. I'm going to tell you, as of about 2 hours ago, when I talked to a buddy of mine from a very, very big building up in a little district that we have in this country. Here you go. You ready? Just China. I'm not talking about the folks. People just died in South Korea. Japan's had deaths. It's in Africa. You ready for this? He didn't tell me about world stuff. They are at the Pentagon. They are projecting over 1 million Chinese infected and 75,000 people dead in China. Over the past couple weeks, I've shown my members videos that if you're a reverse conspiracy theorist, you can say, they made them on a Hollywood soundstage. No, look at the thermal imaging above Wuhan and other cities that are locked down. 2-3 weeks ago, thermal clouds appeared. It wasn't because people are back to work and driving cars. Their crematoriums are working 24/7. For the first time in almost 28 years of trading and investing, a central bank is ordering banks to burn money. You can't even believe how bad this is. The Pentagon, ladies and gentlemen, 2 weeks ago, and it's not like, we're talking about impeachment and Bernie and Bloomberg. You ready for this? They're not talking about this on the news. 2 weeks ago, the Department of Defense said 11 bases around major airports are now pandemic staging areas. I flew Hornets out of Naval Air Station Fort Worth for 5 years. I know people who command the base, and all they will say is, Wiz, we've never been ordered to do what we've been ordered to do. And they ain't going to tell me on text or email or even over the phone. So I'm going to tell you folks that we are playing musical chairs right now with this market. What happened today? After we did our morning brief over at Top Gun Options, headlines came out that it's worse than we believe. What do you think happened when the market imploded today? And I'm going to give you more breaking news. Let me log into my solo Amazon account here. You ready for this? The PPT, before coming up here to the 38th floor to do this webinar, hold on, let me pull up my thing. Can anybody tell me Who, as the market imploded today on bad news, Chris got it right there. A couple people got it. Who stepped in today and bought equities? Do you think it was anybody with a brain? Let me pull up today's chart. Exactly. You guys got it, man. Thank you. Good. There you go, Craig. Yes. Folks, if you don't know this term, you'll get familiar with it. The People's Bank of China and the PPT, we call it, the Plunge Protection Team. The New York Federal Reserve today stepped in and bought equities. You know when we find this stuff out? Afterwards. Folks, the New York Fed and the PBOC are not hedge funds. They're not public companies. They don't have to disclose what they're doing. They don't have to file a 13F. I know for a fact, I had a buddy, he left the Fed a couple years ago, but they have, the Department of the Treasury has secret stuff they can be doing. There's a sentence at the beginning of almost every government manual that says what? In cases of emergency, you can do whatever you need to do. Told you, I don't want to get into politics, but let me do this. The President of the United States is a hypocrite. That might not be breaking news to people who don't like the guys, but you ready for this? Years ago, when Donald J. Trump was a citizen, wasn't a politician, wasn't even running for president, you ready for this? I thought the government doesn't buy equities, but Banu, they absolutely do. Let me finish this, and then we got a lot to do and limited time. Donald Trump, nearly 50 tweets when Obama was president, and we were going to fly in a doctor back, right? This was a doctor who helped, Ebola patients in Africa. You ready for this tweet? Ebola patient will be brought to the U.S. in a few days. Now I know for sure that our leaders are incompetent. Keep them out of here. Here's the next sentence. The U.S. cannot allow Ebola-infected people back. And listen to this great person. People that go to faraway places to help out are great, but must suffer the consequences. This dude, 50 tweets, appearances on Fox News, when how many, was it like 5 people with Ebola we brought back? I am going to tell you that the only reason that the president let 29 infected people back into this country that are on, for the first time in 50 years, there are Americans being guarded with barbed wire and weapons, and they can't leave. You know why? Because we need, this is like M. Night Shyamalan shit, but we need their blood. China is not letting the CDC into their country. They're not letting us take blood samples. They're not letting us autopsy people. Why? So I know we're talking about Amazon here, and we'll get to that in a couple seconds, why I'm so bullish on it. But folks, the music is going to stop. On a Saturday in Tampa, watching my son at 211, the White House finally came out and said, yeah, we don't believe the numbers that China's telling us. Oh my God. Our government, so here's the chain of events. I don't believe anything that China says, and I don't believe anything that our government says. And now our government finally came out and said, we don't believe them. The reason I'm telling you all this stuff, folks, is because, and so many of you, especially at Top Gun Options, have seen the videos that have been smuggled out of China. People being thrown in the trucks, dead bodies, people just falling on the ground, people being burnt. They have locked down their internet, and they are using pro-China trolls to get online and say everything is freaking fantastic. This might be, people in the Pentagon, folks, are actually preparing for this. The end of the Chinese dynasty here. So I showed my members earlier today a video from a lady in Wuhan. She's like, I don't care if they come and get me and shoot me. This has to get out. There's no food, there's no medicine, and people are dying. So I know you're here for a happy good time webinar, let me just say, I bought another AR-15 this week. And so if the PBOC, the People's Bank of China, and the Fed are pumping liquidity into this market when nothing is wrong, according to them, what are they going to do when we all figure out that something is wrong? Exactly, folks. I'm telling you, I see a lot of, I know almost all my members. I see a lot of new names here, folks. Um, this, so here's what I do at Top Gun Options. I treat you like an admiral or a general. I'm going to give you an intelligence brief each day. I'm going to show you what I'm trading, and then you make a decision. Right now, let me draw it on screen here. I am big C, tiny B. I am cautiously bullish. I cannot, it took me a week and a half to really smoke this opium and realize that you can't fight the Fed and the PBOC. There was what was it, a Thursday? There was like a Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right at the top of the hour. Stocks were imploding on bad news, and then they smashed the next hour up into the close. Before I go to bed, I'm laying there. My wife's like, "Why are you still working?" I'm like, "I have to watch the Asian Open. It's a ping pong match. Have you guys seen this? Asian futures are higher based on U.S. close. U.S. futures are higher based on Asian doing. So it's in this echo chamber. We open higher and trade higher because China is doing that. Does anybody in this room not think if the Chinese are throwing the kitchen sink at this thing, they wouldn't be buying U.S. equities? Or even, you ready for this? Apple shares. At the height of our trade war, China actually named Apple. They're like, if this trade war gets worse, Apple, you're gone. You're out. Apple, anybody take a look at their stock recently? Look at Apple stock. We have a great, look at this. We have a great iron condor going on. We put this on Monday, up 89%, $2,700. But look at Apple. I've never seen a company come out and say, you know what? Our first quarter earnings are going to implode, and the market ignore it. So here's what I've been telling TGO members, and then we'll get to Amazon. No brokerage I know lets you trade off the left side of a chart. It's stupid. This whole Doji, Michu, Fibonacci, revert, it's all stupid, folks, head and shoulder. They're all looking at the left side of a chart. Where you make money as a trader, as an investor, is on the right side of a chart. Well, there is no right side, Wiz. That's what you have to do. There ain't no indicators, no special software. The only thing you need to trade is 6, 7, 15, if you're a Marine, inches of gray matter between your ears and a brokerage platform. So here's what the market's doing. It's ignoring this. It's ignoring the immediate future, saying, you know what, everything's fine, and going out to here. Folks, I'm telling you right now, again, I'm no dude in the mountains in Montana, that the out there is bad. It's bad. And there's been several times, Top Gun Ops has been in business for, yeah, you bet, I'll get to that in a second. 10 years we've been in business. I think I can count on one hand the number of times I said, you know what, folks, I want to be wrong. Because if I'm wrong about stuff, usually good things happen. 2.5 years ago, I could not be happier that I was wrong. We had, you ready for this? 3 carrier strike groups in the Pacific. The last time we had that much metal or U.S. sovereign ships was probably the Battle of Midway. They were off North Korea. Remember this, Democrats? Donald Trump's going to get us into World War III. Hell, the Hawaiian self-defense system went off, and a dude had a heart attack, right? Do you remember that years ago when Trump was going to get us all killed by North Korea, and then months later he's shaking the dude's hand? I know for a fact, because I knew the commanding officers of 3 of the ships and 2 of the air wing commanders. They were going to strike. I told my members to get the cash, get long volatility, and buy some S&P 500 puts. It didn't happen. You know why it didn't happen? Because the president ended up sending the dude a picture of him in the crosshairs of a predator, kind of like he did to Soleimani. He said, you know what? We're not going to go to war with, 25 million North Koreans. I'm going to kill you. And he backed down. So I have no problems admitting I'm wrong. if this happens. But this market action today, in the middle of me shooting one of my videos, the market imploded, and all the text I got was people are freaking out about coronavirus. I'm like, where the hell you been for a month? So here's a wizism, and then we'll look at Amazon. The market only cares when it cares. So you have to have one hand on the ejection handle for when the market cares. It's not a matter of if, but when the market cares about this. Literally, China is shut down, folks. I'm hearing that it's in North Korea. We have deaths in South Korea. Japan, was it the fourth, whatever Japan is, the economy of the world. Japan is going to implode on this thing. So if you're sitting here fat, dumb, and happy that you're bullish and everything's fantastic, God bless you. I'm telling you, the music's going to stop. The Fed, I remember years ago, Ben Bernanke sitting in front of the House or Senate. He was like Scotty in the engine room of the Enterprise. He said, I'm giving you all I got, Captain. I can't, you guys have to do something. I can't do any more. So printing money to keep this market up is not going to cure the coronavirus. Folks, Wuhan is the size of New York City and a half. Could you all imagine if we shut down New York City? People weren't allowed to leave. No airplane flights. Seriously, cut China on the left side of the map and drop it over us. And again, so we're going to get happy in a second here, but I'm telling you, man, as an options trader, as a fighter pilot, we always look for what's the worst case scenario that can happen. And if it doesn't happen, we're pleasantly surprised. If it does, what do? We are prepared. We're ready for it. Okay. So Amazon, Apple earnings last quarter were insane. I've never seen earnings better than Apple did last quarter. And I tell my members, let me pull up Apple real quick. I know we're talking about Amazon, but stay with me because this is interesting. So usually an earnings call is 50-50. What do I mean by that? Half the call is, hey, here's how we did last quarter. And the other half of the call is, here's our forward guidance. What was the Apple earnings call like? It was 95.5. It was 95%. Oh my God, look at our wearables, our iPhones and everything. And then some actually good reporters said, hey, how are you feeling about the coronavirus? That's a good question, Steve. Now, who's got another question? 95.5. How many of you have seen in like after hours trading, like, hey, the stock's up 20%, and then 15 minutes later you look and it's down? That's because they briefed the earnings call like, hey, here's how we did, and then here's what we're looking forward to. So Apple, when it came to the forward look, lied their ass, and I would have done the same thing. Like, next question, how are we looking? Right? So I'll get to that, John, right now. So Amazon, let's get to Amazon. The earnings out of Amazon was insane. It made Apple look like it lost money. 150, 70, whatever it was. Half of America is in Amazon Prime. Their web services, their entertainment division, their space division. 2-3 weeks ago, I think right here, they filed for patent protection for Amazon Pharma. They're in everything. I flew, what was it, 10 months? I flew like 10 months for FedEx. Hated it. Could not stand the night. I was a young dude. I could not stand flying on the backside of the clock. 4 or 5 years ago, a buddy of mine from FedEx, senior captain, emailed me. He's like, dude, heard from the corporate folks that Amazon has leased 5 jets. I'm like, he's doing it. He's going to do this on his own. Even when Trump ripped him apart. He's stealing from the post office. He's got great rates. Jeff Bezos didn't say a word. And guess what? He's building a hub like FedEx in Memphis and UPS in Louisville. He's building a hub in the middle of this country. He is going to be his own FedEx and UPS. Who was it? Not Carnegie, the other guy. Who's the old dude who, standing there looking at his oil wells gushing money? He saw him put in the barrels the oil, thrown on a truck, and then put on a railroad. He's like, why do I own the oil? Why don't I buy the trucks and the railroad and the rails and the steel? Sorry, good catch, guys. Rockefeller, you got it. So here's where we are with Amazon. And here's what's interesting the other day in our accelerated retirement portfolio. I just told you that exactly, yeah, Rockefeller. They're burning money in China. You're not, even if this thing, God, please make this happen, that this thing passes and everybody's fine. They're going to go to a cashless society. And I saw on one of these videos, somebody got wine delivered to them on that floating petri dish, the Diamond Princess. You know what I predict happens to the Diamond Princess? It's put out of service and it's sunk by the Japanese self-defense MDF or the U.S. Navy. Any of you in this room, would you ever do a cruise again on the Diamond Princess? Whatever. So let me go back to Amazon. It will not be immune to an implosion. However, money goes in a market, it has to go somewhere. The number one holding of hedge funds last year was Apple. The number two, Amazon. And after this earnings report, it is the last thing I saw on the Bank of America Merrill Lynch report was it's tied for Apple right now as the number one holding. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, out of the 9,000 hedge funds in this country, about 8,000 of them are long only, meaning they buy stocks and they sit there. So if you're in Apple, which almost every hedge fund is, you're not going to, you're looking, there's an investment committee. Me, I'm my own investment committee. I've been in a boardroom where we've made this, 20 people trying to decide to buy or sell. I'm like, oh my God, you with your laptop, you're your own investment committee, but hedge funds are sitting there. Nobody's blinking and going to get out of that right now. So Amazon, folks, for now, look at this. Look at that gap up on earnings. If a stock gaps up, it tends to fill half the gap. It never looked back, folks. It hasn't stopped. So even though I'm scaring the hell out of some of you with what's going on, truly what's going on, and you're being lied to, Donald Trump, folks, can't stand the guy, love the policies. He said three things about coronavirus. It's contained, Xi's doing a good job, and it'll be gone by April because of the heat. Really? Does anybody believe this? And by the way, if he ever came out and said, yeah, it's a bioweapon that got loose and, we're all screwed, the market's at zero as he's saying that. But we're going to look, and let's go over to XLY. Let's take a look at XLY real quick because we have an iron condor on there. So all of these things are kind of topping out and hovering and waiting for the next move. So the next move, in my opinion, today was, I haven't seen anything like today in a long time. Well, no, that's not true. About 2 weeks ago, I told you at 3 o'clock, somebody came in and bought the hell out of the market. Look at this. Absolute implosion. This was because China came out and gave an unexpected uptick in numbers, which, if they're giving an unexpected uptick in numbers, it's worse than you think. And then mysteriously, I'm driving down here to Fort Lauderdale on the phone, texting people. The mysterious hand of God came in and bought this market. You've already answered it, what the mysterious hand is. It's the Federal Reserve and the PBOC. So we can't fight this. But here's the problem with trading and investing right now. Like I said, the market only cares when it cares. So I think Amazon is going to hover up here until we get some, clarity as to where we're going next. Yeah, absolutely. All of these. It saddens me to say this, but you have got to absolutely buy these dips. The last time the market let me bring up SPX real quick. This is the last time the market traded rationally, folks, right here. This made sense. Holy crap. Oh, hold on. This is the, holy crap, implosion. dead bat bounce, not dead cat. Now it's a dead bat. And then 1, 2, 3, 3-day short squeeze, and then federal money coming in. You can't fight this, okay? So we need to have one hand on the ejection handle when, not if this market turns, but you can't fight it, okay? You absolutely need to be bullish. Right now on Amazon though, look at this, the 2175, yeah, 2175 seems to be a little bit of a roof. So the trade I would look on Amazon out to next Friday. When we look at if we look at a bearish trade on Amazon, the threat to it is what? Good news. Somebody could come out and hey, we got a cure and something like that. I don't see any of that happening. So let me see how many contracts we could do. So I would look at a bear call spread on that, and you can turn this into an iron condor, which is a range bound trade. Geez, we can actually go up to what's 2180. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, let's look at this one. So this is the trade I look on Amazon. Warning, Will Robinson, it is always dangerous getting a little bit bearish on Amazon. Jeff Bezos can always come out, have some sort of, hey, we just officially bought Christmas from the North Pole and the thing ramp up. But this gap up, hover, gap up, hover, I think we're going to hover for a while on Amazon, at least out to next Friday. So here's the trade that I'm looking to do. We do solo Amazon every Monday at 3 o'clock, looking to sell 30 of the Feb 28, 2180 calls. That's me saying, I don't think Amazon's above 2180 by next Friday. Wiz, what if you're wrong, man? Jeff Bezos comes out and says, Amazon Pharma found a cure for this thing. Well, then we're buying these upside calls, the 218 and a half, 2180 and a half calls as a hedge. So I'm neutral. I'm not necessarily bearish on Amazon, folks. I'm neutral. So I'm neutral on Amazon. I'm using calls, and it's a spread. This tactic on your screen is called a bear call spread. Now, for those of you who've traded options, you also know that this is called a credit spread. Right now, we're bringing markets close, obviously. Tomorrow, I'd maybe look at this. We're bringing in a credit of 67 cents. Okay. Now I'm going to, visually, this might not be pleasing for some of you, but I'm going to turn into a Catholic nun with a ruler. As soon as I click this snapshot analysis tool, I want you to look at one place and one place only. If you don't, I'm going to crack your knuckles. Max potential loss. As a fighter pilot, as an options trader, the only thing I look at before I go on a mission or trade is what? Max potential loss, the sad face, right around $5,500. So that's a little north of my max potential risk for this portfolio. I don't want to risk more than 5% or $5,000 on any one trade. That's me. That's 28 years of doing this based on 100 grand, 5%. But you have to come up with your own SOP. What's the max risk per trade you're okay with? This is based on 30 calls, right? If you want to risk half this, you ready, Einstein? You do 15 contracts. Want to, risk double this? You do 60, right? You scale. You're getting to eavesdrop on what I'm potentially doing, but you have to fly and fight your own airplane. So just like an aviator, folks, once you look at this and check it off and go, acknowledged, check. I know that's my max risk. If everything goes to hell in a hand, well, actually, it wouldn't be going to hell in a handbasket because Amazon would be going up. But Monday at 3 o'clock, I'm going to show you how to establish a base position. Okay, because we can go out. Hold on, let me pull the options chain up real quick. Monday, I'm going to show you how we're going to hop in our Joint Strike Fighter, go the speed of light, and go. Look at this. We can get bullish on Amazon all the way out to Jan of 2022. So I'm going to show you how we're going to establish a bullish position out there. I already told you I think it's a 4,000 stock all the way out to there. But we're also going to trade, like I told you, the front months. So this would be a front month spread. Terry, the break even is right down here. The break even is 21.8067. So I love these types of spreads because you're ready for this. We make money 3 out of 4 ways. See that dotted line right here, right there? That is at the close Amazon's price. So Amazon goes down, we make money. Amazon can hover like it's doing on the ledge right now. We bank money. Amazon can even go up a little bit as long as it stays below that break even right there on the screen. The only way this trade loses if out of the blue, Amazon between now and next Friday gets on its horse and gallops higher. Always a potential threat. But we also, I'm going to teach you at Top Gun Options, we have what we call ejection criteria. When would we bail out of this trade? I do simple math. I'm a political science major, Navy fighter pilot. I just double the credit that I take in. What's that, $1.34? So remember, folks, as a credit spread, we want this to go to zero. We want every penny in this spread. If it's going up, that means Amazon's going up, and that's bad for a bearish trade. So just double the credit that you take in. About $1.34 is when I'd go, you know what? This thing's going against me. I don't want to take that max loss of $5,400. Time to get out of it. Okay? You bet. Well, that's you, Chrissy, you read my mind. So that's, and yeah, absolutely. So in our live trade briefs every Monday at 3 o'clock, we also cover XLY. Because 26% of the XLY is made of Amazon shares. It's only $132. Because when I show you the base trade on Monday that I do, you might only be able to do one contract. But remember, one contract can be a hell of a lot of leverage. And I'll show you that in a couple minutes. Okay. So my bias right now, being cautiously bullish, is obviously to the downside. But we got the Fed, we got the PBOC, we got folks stepping in and buying this market, even though things are potentially bad. Okay, yeah, I'm doing that right now. So here we go. And let me get through this, and then I'll take all those questions that are flying around. Great stuff. Folks, this service is called Solo Amazon. We only trade, we trade one name, 1.2 names. We also trade XLY. This is our newest live trade brief here at Top Gun Options. They normally, if you did one of our individual weekly options, accelerated retirement briefs, are $167 a month. Today, we're going to let you into this for $97 a month. I just did lunch with my PR lady. It was 3 times that amount to have lunch here in Fort Lauderdale. So here's where you need to go. Go.topgunoptions.com/solo. That's a pretty easy URL to remember. Let me go ahead and grab that and put that. You bet. That's what we do on Monday. So I'm going to show you. It's live trading. You don't have to be there. Let me send that. So there you go. It's go.topgunoptions.com/solo. Literally just spent more than that on a lunch here in Fort Lauderdale with my PR lady. We are opening our my foundation to help with veteran suicide. Different topic, but let me brief you what you bet it is that cheap. So Solo Amazon, our other briefs are $167. This is $97 a month. Go.topgunoptions.com/solo. Okay. Thanks, Larry. I appreciate that. You bet, man. Printing money to date. We have some XLY positions. Actually, I didn't get filled on those things. Up about 16.5 month to date here in February. Love trading this stuff. We'll trade XLY. We'll also trade Amazon, obviously, but some of the base positions we're going to establish. Thanks, Chris. Wiz, God bless you for your work with vets. Amen. I wouldn't be where I am today without that. Hey, if you can't attend, 80% of Top Gun Options members work. They Monday at 3 o'clock, Wiz, I'm at work, 3 o'clock Eastern. Don't worry about it, man, because guess what we're going to do? Parmar, you can do an annual membership. Let me get to that instead of monthly. You're going to get a text alert and an email alert. So I go in to our broadcaster, I paste in the text of the trade and screenshots of the trade, and they fire simultaneously. Usually I get my Gmail of the trade quicker than I get the damn text alert. T-Mobile sucks. So time-sensitive text and email alerts. I put a screenshot of the trade in the email with the trade itself and the parameters of it. So, and by the way, everything's recorded. This is recorded. I'll send out the replay later today. I post, it takes about, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes for the replay to render and then post it on the member page. So most folks, if they can't attend the live brief, after the kids go to bed or you're hanging out on the couch, you can watch the session via replay. Okay. So don't worry about having to attend. You don't have to be there. Today, I'm also going to throw in, you ready for this? Our 3 proprietary manuals. This is flight school right here, folks. Primary, intermediate, advanced. Because I saw some of you asking about what's an iron condor or bear call spread. It's all in here, all in these manuals. And actually, if you do the $97 a month thing, I think it's going to ask you if you want to attend our full throttle training. So next week, starting it's Tuesday and Thursday nights at 7 o'clock for 4 weeks, I'm going to do, obviously the market's closed at 7 o'clock, having a nice glass of wine. I'm going to do live training on bear call spreads, iron condors, and stuff like that. So if you need the live training at night for the next 4 weeks, it'll ask you, once you get your $97 a month thing, it'll say, hey man, do you want to do the 8 sessions of training? We do those 4 times a year, usually once a quarter, and it's coming up next week. So this is a great time to do this solo Amazon thing. Yeah, Steve, you are smarter than me. You just did the math. So if it's $97 for a month, and if I go to the homepage and try and buy these, they're $197. Essentially, I just put $100 back in your pocket. So you get these, you own these, folks. Primary, intermediate, advanced. Primary, this is a call, this is a put, this is volatility. Intermediate, these are some basic spreads. Advanced, these things are awesome. I actually go through these things every once in a while. Nicholas, another great session, Wiz. Thank you. You bet, Nicholas. Here's what you get. Access to our solo Amazon live trade brief every Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock before the market closes. You get the text and email alerts. You get the 3 skill-based manuals, and you get access to our members only ready room. That's our online forum where you guys can interact with each other, interact with me in between the live trade briefs. Parmar, you're actually on here. Made 200 grand in Amazon on 20 call contracts. Kevin, I didn't see Kevin in here. He's been a member for about 5 years at TGO. Amazon synthetic stock, late to enter, up 200%, paid 8, now 24. Greg, Amazon is my core position. A 2020 and a 2021 are up, allow me to round up, 50 grand. And the value of the positions is 144 grand. I love that. I don't need much more. Thomas, 10 grand. David, did Amazon TGO synthetic stock 2 months ago, up 42 grand. Diane, up 70 grand with 1 contract. This ain't me touting. These are your current TGO members touting. So, all right. Can't stand the marketing stuff. Hopefully, or selling, it sold itself, whatever the hell that means. It's only at 97 bucks, folks. Do it for a month, man, especially the next month. This is about to get nuts. Solo Amazon, $97 a month today. And Parmar, you got it, man. If you don't want to do a month-to-month subscription, you will save a lot of money by doing an annual. You'll get a 25% discount. Head to go.topgunoptions.com/solo. Yep, you're welcome. Yeah, absolutely. Well, even if you don't become a member, hopefully you learned something today, folks. And I didn't mean to scare you. I mean to arm you. Okay, I don't want you flying around in a jet with 33 positions, folks. I do this for a living, and 5 to 10 is pretty damn busy. This stock has its own volatility index. It's its own Death Star. So stop flying around in your F4 Phantom with a ton of positions you don't even know what they are or why you got in them, and get into a couple names and simplify your life. Trust me, folks who are in the service are like, man, thank God I did this, and it really simplified my trading. All you have to do is focus on one name instead of your whole portfolio. 97 bucks a month, $897 a year, 25% discount if you want to do an annual. So you bet, absolutely, it's right on there. So if you, clearly, folks, if you do an annual, it's cheaper. So those are the the motivated folks that we like to see. Let me scroll up here. Gives you time to learn about what you're investing in. Thanks, Larry. I appreciate that. Sam, if you signed up twice, don't worry about it. We'll hook you up. Don't worry about it. You bet. All right, well, it looks like I answered most of these, and the rest are really compliments. Thanks. I appreciate it. Folks, I am very passionate about what I do. It's funny because a lot of people are like, oh, if you're so smart, why didn't you do this? But folks, I ran a $2.5 billion options firm. I'm like, I couldn't stand Wall Street, man. I came from a background where if you didn't trust a dude, he was out of the squadron that day. I went to Wall Street and I saw people who would push their mom in front of a bus to make a buck. I decided I got mine, man. In the military, if you made it to a higher rank or you got to go to Top Gun or you did something, here's what we say. You put the ladder down. I put the ladder down here at Top Gun Options. We're going on our 10th year in business, folks. Most companies in the financial training space are out of business or they changed their name because they're scumbags. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. You just did that. Yeah, Parmar, just email support at Top Gun Options if you're already a monthly member, and we'll just upgrade you into the annual. You can do that, folks. You can join, test flight it for a couple months, and then shoot us an email and say, hey, man, I'd rather save some money and do an annual. But folks, this is, let me sign off with this. I went, oh man, I went over by 12 minutes. That means, so April, what's the first week in April? So in God's Waiting Room, Boca Raton, on April 4th, we're going to do a live event here in Boca. So if you are on this webinar and you come to our live event, more info on that, I owe you a shot because I went over. I respect people's time, and I apologize for that. Steve, welcome aboard. Waiting for name. Let me show you some of these. This is what's going on in the chat box since I know you guys can't see that. Steve, thanks, Wiz. Got to join you on this. Looks great. Great info. Signed up. Parmar, I told you can sign up or email support. Brian, I want 7 shots. Well, shit, I better get going, guys. I do need to get going because I actually have a speech here later tonight down here in Fort Lauderdale. But no, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming, folks. You're welcome, Steve. Can you give me $100 since I don't drink? Larry, I will give you $100. You come to the live event, I'm going to give you a nice, shiny $100 bill. So, like I said, folks, very passionate about what I do. You need to have an ejection seat right now. Do not trade the next couple of months solo. If you got a friend or buddy to bounce ideas off of, do it, or just try us out for a month because I'm gonna try and help you out. Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that, guys. Joseph, the Amazon trade is not good for tomorrow. Let's see how it opens. I still like the strikes that I picked, but I need to. Well, how about this for being really cheesy? Join up and I'll tell you. But no, I need to know what's going on. What are we doing after hours? Hold on. 2149. I mean, I do like the strikes, but the first hour of trading we call it amateur hour. I wouldn't just hang out, Joseph, until 10, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. So exactly, Leonard. All right, guys. Sorry, I kept you way too long. I talked way too much. I appreciate you guys coming. Please just give it a try for a month, man. And we have other services if you're not interested in just solo Amazon, but I'm not going to talk about those now since they're full. Okay. All right, guys, I'll get the replay to you. I don't know. I got a speech tonight, but as soon as I can. Have a great rest of your day, your night, your morning. Happy hunting. Make sure you hedge and God bless. Welcome aboard Top Gun Options.